I've been working for 13 years in an office and I feel that my job is boring and useless. Well, start with where you are, rather than trying to get away from where you are. You start with always the present moment. I suggest when you travel to work every morning, enter the state of presence rather than drifting off into thinking, so that you're present every moment, whether you're driving or taking public transportation or walk to work. Be there, absolute presence. And when you're at work, do one thing at a time and bring in spacious moments as much as possible. They can only be a few seconds. One spacious breath after you made a phone call, two spacious breaths. And then when you go to have lunch, wherever it is, either you eat the lunch that you brought with you or you go to the restaurant or the canteen, or again, present with every movement. So you use what otherwise would be a boring situation and just use it as the background for presence. So you're not looking for some satisfaction in the work, but you bring a different state of consciousness to it. So in a way, your work situation becomes like a canvas. It's just an excuse for practicing presence. And you're lucky that you have a relatively boring job. It gives you great opportunity. If you had a very stressful job that kept you in a state of excitement all day long, it would be more difficult. Be thankful that life has given you something relatively boring. And then you make it interesting, not in the conventional sense of interesting, but you bring the alertness to it. So you're not working at the stock exchange shouting like a mad person. Use the situation and discontent disappears. And that is true surrender. The mind telling you, been 13 years, how many more years to retirement? Oh, and then you start counting the years to retirement. So you're losing yourself in past and future, and you're carrying the burden in your mind of past and future, missing the opportunity of the present moment because it's not interesting enough, says the mind. So that's good. If you come into such an alignment with the present moment, you feel more alive even within the routine activities. There is then an added dimension of aliveness that comes in, and you perform even the routine activities with a greater sense of aliveness. And it is often then that change comes into your life when you align with the present moment instead of trying to get away from it, so that any kind of no to the present moment dissolves. And so you're so aligned that actually power begins to flow through. That's why I call that the power of now. It's the power of life itself. Begins to flow through you. Then at first it flows into your routine activities, and the way in which you relate to your colleagues at work becomes more present, different, somewhat different. Some people may notice it, others may not. And so the universe or life notices that you are in a different state of consciousness. And often it is then that change comes into your life, either through a chance event or a chance encounter or a sudden idea or realization that comes into your head one morning, in whatever form it comes, or some drastic thing like suddenly your company goes bust. The company that you worked for so long, suddenly they close down. Everybody loses their job. You're free. But you were free already because internally you already became free. So in what way change comes into your life, we don't know. It is much more likely to come in, but you no longer depend on external change for your inner state. That's the main thing, that you don't depend on it anymore. You're already, and even if nothing else came into your life, you would continue practice until your last breath, and your last breath would be a conscious breath, and you would have fulfilled your purpose on this planet in this form, which is to be a vehicle for consciousness, come into this world. You don't need to depend, you don't depend on anything. Change is more likely to come, yes, but the presence practice is not a means to an end. You're not practicing, you say, okay, I'll practice, but if nothing happens within 6 weeks, I'll stop practicing. So to all of you who are bored at work, there may be quite a few, make it into a spiritual practice, a consciousness practice. Bored at work also means you're not particularly challenged at work. In the absence of life challenges, there's always the danger that you fall below thought and you come into a routine where you think it's acceptance, but you're really